Hello guys, welcome back to another part of Core Java tutorial. In today's episode, we are going to learn about how to create user-defined exceptions in Java. So here I am going to explain how to create user-defined exception in Java with a complete working example. So here I am going to create a program that contain a user-defined exception called invalid age exception. So whenever a user enter an invalid age, this program create a user-defined exception. So here I'm going to create a class called class invalid age exception. Here I just create a class called invalid age exception and make this class as a subclass of exception class. So extends exception. Okay. Now here I create another class called class exception test, and here is the main class public class exception demo that must contain the main method. So public static void main string args. Okay, so here there are three classes. First one is an invalid age exception class, and second one is an exception test class, and third one is the public class called exception demo. So here I am going to create a method here. So public void process, and that access that contain an argument called int age, and in this method I am going to validate the age using an if loop. If value of the variable age greater than 110, that means if user enter an age greater than 110, here in this situation we are going to generate that user defined exception. So here I am going to throw that exception, throw new invalid age exception. So here I just throw that exception called throw new invalid age exception. Okay, so now I am going to create a constructor on the exception class. That means a user defined exception class. So here is the constructor public invalid age exception. Here is the constructor of that class, and here I am just invoke the superclass method super. I just pass an exception message here, invalid invalid age exception, try a valid age. Okay, so whenever this exception is generated, you can see this is actually an creation, this is actually an object creation. So whenever this statement execute, that constructor will invoke and that will call the superclass method, and this string is actually passed to that exception class. Okay, now I am going to create an object of this class, and using that object I am going to invoke this method called process. So on the main class, so I'm going to plan access the age from the user through the command line argument. So here I'm going to create an integer value age, and age is equal to integer dot parse int args of 0. So here I just access the value from user through the command line argument, and I'm going to create an object of this class called exception test. So exception test is equal to new exception test. Okay, and using that object I'm going to invoke that method called the process, and definitely that method contain an argument called age. So here I'm going to invoke that method using this object test dot process and pass this argument as age. Okay, so now we completed our coding, and if the user enter a valid age, then that will show a message process success. Okay, now I am going to so in this program there are three classes. First one is a user defined exception class called invalid age exception that extend the exception class, and in that class we create a constructor that pass a string to the parent class method using the super keyword, and in the second class we create a method that actually generate an exception called invalid age exception. We throw this and throw that exception here, and on the main class we just create an object of that second class, and using that object we just invoke that method. So one more thing, we need to throw that exception here, throws invalid age exception. So whenever this method throws that exception that is quoted on the main method, so here also we are not we are not handling that method, that exception here. So main method also throws that exception to the JVM, throws invalid age exception. So now that exception is quoted on JVM, and JVM handle that exception. So here I'm going to save this program, save as. I'm going to save it in D drive. In D drive there is a folder called programs, and name of that public class is exception demo. Exception demo.java, and save as Java source file and save it. Now I'm going to compile the program. So plus F6. So Java C exception demo.java. Now we just compile the program. Okay, there is no errors present on this program. Now we can run the program. So again I plus F6. Now I'm going to run the program. So Java exception demo. I provide an invalid age of 120. Is an invalid age. So now we are going to run it. Now you can see that this exception is actually quoted on the JVM, and you can see exception entered the main, and that is invalid age exception try a valid age. Actually this is printed by the JVM, and now that exception is handled by JVM. So you can, it's also possible to handle the exception using a try catch block here. So here I'm not throws this to the JVM. Here I'm going to handle it using a try catch block. So here I'm going to place the throw statement in a try catch block. Try catch. Name of the exception is invalid age exception. Okay, just print out that object system dot out dot println. Just print out that object. Okay, now again I save it, and now I'm going to compile it again. Javac exception demo dot java. Now the program is successfully compiled, and now I'm going to run it. Java exception demo with an invalid age of 130. Okay, now you can see that now the exception is handled in the program itself, and invalid age exception, and it is this message is actually printed from the object of that exception class. Guys, this is how we create user defined exception in Java. You will get the complete source code from my blog. My blog URL is given under the description of this video. Please subscribe my channel now for getting more video updates. Thank you for watching. See you in the next part of this tutorial.